there is fire in the mountain.
I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have? You will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
Telling you,
because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
This is not even baby geopolitics. This is just not thinking at all.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
The world is about to experience yet another World War III, all because of this ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Donald Trump wants to stop the fire. Europe says no, and the French President Emmanuel Macron comes and says this.
Legitimately concerned about the historic events underway, who are shaking up the world order. The war in Ukraine, which has resulted in almost 1 million deaths and injuries, continues unabated. The United States of America, our ally, has changed its position on this war, is less supportive of Ukraine, and is casting doubt on what will happen next. At the same time, the same United States of America intends to impose tariffs on products from Europe. Last but not least, the world continues to become ever more brutal, and the threat of terrorism continues unabated. All in all, our prosperity and security have become more uncertain, and it has to be said that we are entering a new era.
Sont devenues plus incertaines, et il faut bien le dire, nous rentrons dans une nouvelle ère.
The war in Ukraine has now been going on for over 3 years. From day one, we decided to support Ukraine and sanction Russia. And rightly so, for it is not only the Ukrainian people who are courageously fighting for their freedom, but also our own security that is under threat. Indeed, if one country can invade its neighbor in Europe with impunity, then nobody can be sure of anything anymore. And it's the law of the strongest that applies.
C'est la loi du plus fort qui s'applique, et la paix ne peut plus être garantie sur notre continent même. L'histoire nous l'a enseigné. Au-delà de l'Ukraine, la menace russe est là.
And peace can no longer be guaranteed on our own continent. History has taught us this. Beyond Ukraine, the Russian threat is there, and it affects the countries of Europe. Russia has already turned the Ukrainian conflict into a global one. It has mobilized North Korean soldiers and Iranian equipment on our continent, while helping these countries to further arm themselves.
Manipule les élections en Roumanie, en Moldavie. Elle organise des attaques numériques contre nos hôpitaux pour en bloquer le fonctionnement.
President Putin's Russia is violating our borders to assassinate opponents, manipulating elections in Romania and Moldavia. It organizes digital attacks on our hospitals to block their operations. Russia is trying to manipulate our opinions with lies spread on social networks. Deep down, it tests our limits, and does so in the air, at sea, in space, and behind our screens.
De son budget à cette fin. D'ici 2030, elle prévoit d'encore accroître son armée, d'avoir 300 000 soldats supplémentaires, 3 000 chars, 300 avions de chasse de plus. Qui peut donc croire, dans ce contexte?
This aggressiveness seems to know no bounds. And at the same time Russia continues to rearm, spending over 40% of its budget for this purpose. By 2030, it plans to further expand its army, adding 300,000 soldiers, 3,000 tanks, and 300 fighter jets. In this context, who can believe that today's Russia will stop at Ukraine?
Mais la situation que je vous décris est celle-là, et nous devons faire avec.
But how did it get to this point? Well, in order for you to understand, let me take you to the beginning of everything. For more than 3 years now that Ukraine is in war with Russia. And this war, it has been motivated by the US with its allies, European countries. The Joe Biden administration, it was in order for them to make sure that Russia can be defeated by Ukraine. But unfortunately, since Donald Trump came to power, as he promised during his campaign, he said that he's going to end this war. When President Trump took this decision, it did not engage other counterparts such as the European countries to know what is their opinions on this one, whether they will be in support of this ceasefire in Ukraine or not. Instead, what Donald Trump did was to start engaging in the conversation with the government of Russia without involving Europeans in this deal. We all saw how Donald Trump sent his delegates. Russia sent his delegates as well. They went and met somewhere in the Middle East, and on this table there were not any other European countries which was being represented over there. Neither the Ukrainian representative, they were not there. Now you might ask a question to know why these European countries, whether it is the Ukraine or British or France, who've been playing a very big role in this war that has been going on in Ukraine, they are not at this deal that was taking place between Russia and Ukraine. Well, it is for the obvious reason, because the United States of America wanted to show the world that they are the one who are running the show, and they are the one who have the last word to say concerning this war which has been going on in Ukraine.
For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
And so, this is something which did not sit okay with Ukrainian government of Zelensky. So, Zelensky had to start doing a certain kind of campaign in Europe to find out from his allies that how come you guys were abandoning us all alone with the USA doing every negotiations without us, when these European countries, they wanted to raise up their head to try to find out what was going on. Donald Trump did not keep quiet about it. Instead, he had even to send some senators in the EU Parliament in order for them to own all the European countries to stay out of this, because it is the USA who's running the show here.
Track record with the Ukrainians. I advise the Ukrainians. I'm not anti-Ukrainian, I'm pro-Ukrainian completely. I said, save your lives, save your sovereignty, save your territory, be neutral. Don't listen to the Americans. I repeated to them the famous adage of Henry Kissinger, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Okay, so let me repeat that for Europe. To be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Trump does not want the losing hand. This is why it is more likely than not this war will end, because Trump and President Putin will agree to end the war. If Europe does all its great warmongering, it doesn't matter. The war is ending. So get it out of your system. Please tell your colleagues. It's over. And it's over because Trump doesn't want to carry a loser. That's it. It's not some great morality. He doesn't want to carry a loser. This is a loser. The one that will be saved by the negotiations taking place right now is Ukraine. Second is Europe. Your stock market's rising in recent days by the horrible news of negotiations. I know this has been met with the sheer horror in these chambers, but this is the best news that you could get. Now, I encouraged, they don't listen to me, but I tried to reach out to some of the European leaders. Most don't want to hear anything from me at all. But I said, don't go to Kiev. Go to Moscow. Discuss with your counterparts. Are you kidding? You're Europe. You're 450 million people. You're $20 trillion economy. You should be the main economic trading partner of Russia. its natural links.
This was a very strong message which this Senate of the USA had to send to all European countries who are supporting Ukraine. That ended up lifting all these European countries with the anger toward the government of Donald Trump. So before they get to react, they then decided to send French President Emmanuel Macron to go all the way to Donald Trump under his own invitation, because we all know that France, they have to play a very big role from all this. Now, Emmanuel Macron, when he was in the USA, he could not be able to open his mouth. Do you know why? Because he was right in front of his own master. He was not in front of his allies, but he had just to go there and listen to Donald Trump talking more than him as a guest in front of all medias.
Mr. President,
Mr. President.
What?
Would a mineral deal include a security guarantee for Ukraine?
Well, it'll be, Europe is going to make sure that nothing happens. I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. I think once we settle, there's going to be no more war in Ukraine, and you're not going to have it's not going to be a very big problem. That's going to be the least of it. But helping Ukraine like nobody's ever helped Ukraine before. And I can say this, if I didn't become president, Ukraine would right now still be at a level where there would be no even thinking about a peace. And it was, it's a sad thing that this happened. This would have never happened, this war, if I were president. Zero chance. And it has happened. So my function is to get you out of the war, get them out of the war, let them live. It's a bloody war, it's a horrible war. Thousands of people are being killed a week. And I would say Russia, maybe 700,000 people. I think Ukraine probably a similar number. And that's not talking about the towns and the cities that have been blown up. That's talking about soldiers. This has been a horrible, bloody mess. And we're going to get it solved. We got to get it solved. And you know, we're not talking about America's soldiers, soldiers from this country. We're talking about Russia and Ukraine. But on a humanitarian basis, we have to get this very, very bloody, savage problem solved. And I will say this also, it could lead to World War III if it's not solved. You know, there'll be a point at which it's not going to stop at those two countries. Already there's such involvement from other countries. And it could really lead to a very big war, World War III. And we're not going to let that happen either.
Oh yes, indeed. It was Donald Trump who was running the show, because Emmanuel Macron could not be able to open his mouth, could not be able to even show his wings that he can fly. Instead, he was only there to repeat exactly what is being said by Donald Trump. He seemed to agree with Donald Trump in everything. But in his return, in Europe continent, Emmanuel Macron seemed not to be the same man whom we saw inside the White House. Do you know why? Because this time this man have to go and try to visit different European countries who are involved in this mafias that has been going on in Ukraine. And they had to go and meet this time in UK, where they had a meeting which seemed to be very different to the one that they had with Donald Trump. In the UK, we saw the British Prime Minister who have to come and explain us that Ukraine, they will receive all the necessary help more than ever.
This is a watershed moment for Europe. And Ukraine, as part of our European family, it's also a watershed moment for Ukraine. Europe faces a clear and present danger, and therefore Europe has to be able to protect itself, to defend itself, as we have to put Ukraine in a position to protect itself and to push for lasting and just peace. We want a peace through strength. And this is the reason why I present today to the leaders the Rearm Europe plan. The Rearm Europe plan provides up to 800 billion euros for defense investment. It gives the member states fiscal space to invest in defense. It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine. So it is to the benefit of rearming Europe, rearming the European Union, but also arming Ukraine in its existential fight for its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
What a contradiction between Donald Trump in behalf of the US and the European leaders. They don't seem to be speaking the same language anymore. Donald Trump wants to stop the war which has been going in Ukraine because he knows very well that this is a very big business for most of these countries, which end up making the USA to spend a lot of billions of money. We're talking about more than 350 billion US dollar, which they have spent so far by the USA. On the other side, the European countries, which are all combined together, they only spend less than 120 billion US dollar, and this money they are already getting it refunded through the Russian asset which they have seized.
This war costed all of us a lot of money, and this is the responsibility of Russia because the aggressor is Russia.
Should the US be compensated?
So at the end of the day, this frozen asset should be part of the negotiation. All in all,
will France support the US being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the ones to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
but they get their money back, we don't, and now we do.
So it is one of the reasons which motivate Donald Trump to understand that actually these people that are benefiting a lot in whatsoever small amount that they are busy investing in Ukraine. On the other side, the US is not benefiting anything. Like I said it before in my videos, that the difference between the Ukraine war and the Africa continent, it is that Ukraine does not have much to offer to all these Western countries, whether it's the USA or whether it is its allies. Ukraine, they had nothing to offer the USA. But if it was an African country, by this time I believe the USA, they will have win even more money out of all the conflicts that they will be busy investing. So now that Donald Trump wants to stop this war, on the other side, the European countries, they say no. And they are giving their own reasons. According to the speech of Emmanuel Macron, he says that Russia, it is indeed a big threat for all the European countries.
Russia has become, as I speak and for years to come, a threat to France and Europe. I deeply regret this, and I am convinced that in the long term, peace will come to our continent with a Russia that is once again at peace. But the situation I'm describing is just that, and we have to deal with it. So, in this world of danger, to remain a spectator would be madness. Without further delay, we must take decisions for Ukraine.
C'est pour cela que le chemin qui mène à la paix ne peut pas passer par l'abandon de l'Ukraine. Bien au contraire. La paix ne peut pas être conclue à n'importe quel prix.
For the security of the French and for the security of Europeans. Ukraine first. All peace-building initiatives are a step in the right direction. And tonight I want to salute them. We must continue to help the Ukrainians resist until they can negotiate with Russia a solid peace for themselves and for us all. That's why the road to peace cannot pass through the abandonment of Ukraine. Quite the contrary. Peace cannot be achieved at any price and under Russian diktat. Peace cannot be Ukraine's capitulation.
And good things about everything is when you have to acknowledge on how the economy of Russia and the army of Russia, it has even grown up more than ever. So here we are having now the Europeans with Emmanuel Macron, who are giving their own reasons, saying that no, Russia is a very big threat to their democracy because of whatsoever it's been happening over there is going to affect them. Now, on the other side, we're having the USA with Donald Trump, who are saying that this war, it is not a normal war like we get to see it, but it is a business which these people have been doing. And We have to stop this because it might end up causing another World War III. And we had explained to you how this thing is going to lead to another World War III. Before I get to continue on this part, I want first to explain you a little bit what does Donald Trump mean when he says that if we don't stop this now, we're going to have another world war. Well, it is for the simple reasons. This war, it has been ongoing for 3 years now. These 3 years, obviously, Russia, they have fight as much as they can. But at the same time, it is also kind of like affecting them. And all these European countries coming together, putting power together, sponsoring Ukraine and do all these kind of things. It is something which is also pushing Russia to the point of starting also engaging in a war with them. Because sooner or later, these European countries, they'll make only one mistake, which Russia won't be able to tolerate. And once the Russians are not going to be able to endure this kind of pain or whatsoever is going to be as a damage caused by these European countries, well, they will be left only with one choice, then to use their nuclear weapons. And once they have to put their hands on their nuclear weapons, we all know what a nuclear weapon can do to a nation.
And this is extremely important to understand. The nuclear arms control framework is based on trying to block a first strike. The ABM treaty was a critical component of that. The U.S. unilaterally walked out of the ABM treaty in 2002. It blew a Russian gasket. So everything I've been describing is in the context of the destruction of the nuclear framework as well. And starting in 2010, the U.S. put in Aegis missile systems in Poland and then in Romania. And Russia doesn't like that. And one of the issues on the table in December and January, December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine? And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants. That's your putative ally. And now let's put intermediate missile systems back in Germany. The United States walked out of the INF Treaty unilaterally in 2019. There is no nuclear arms framework right now.
So that is the fear of Donald Trump. But let's leave that aside. If Donald Trump can't be able to stop this war, because right now, people are supposed to listen to his order. People are supposed to who's supposed to be working together with him, they are kind of like isolating themselves from all this and try to go ahead and back up the Ukraine. And backing up the Ukraine, already Donald Trump, he did not take that lightly, because you guys, you saw in the White House when Donald Trump have to tell Zelensky that
I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
Oh yes, Donald Trump, as we are talking right now, if it was not because of the letter which Zelensky have sent him yesterday, just before he speak to the House.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago.
Well, Donald Trump was ready to cut the fundings for Ukraine, and we all know the consequences of that, because once that funding is being cut, of course, Ukraine won't last that longer. And that is the truth, that whether it is the Europeans, whether it is everyone around the world, they know about that. Ukraine can't last that long against Russia. Donald Trump threatening Zelensky in the White House and saying that it's going to cut the fund in order if Zelensky ever refused to sign this peace deal. Well, it seemed like it's something which did not also sit okay with the Europeans. So now they kind of like putting everything together in order for them to go ahead and help Zelensky in order for him to defend himself against Russia. Without the USA, of course, because even Emmanuel Macron, in his speech, he also repeat the same thing, that we need to learn on how to defend ourselves without the USA. That's a very strong message over there. They are kind of like turning their back against their allies, which is the USA, in all this. Okay, that's not none of my business. But what will happen if it is that the USA wanting to stop this war, yet Zelensky with the European countries, they don't want to stop this war? What will happen? Because when you listen to Emmanuel Macron, he's saying that no, Russia with President Vladimir Putin, they end up making a very big mistake from the moment when they decided to bring other troops or to involve other countries around the world, such as North Korea with their troops and Iran's weapons in Europe continent. For him, he believed that Vladimir Putin is supposed not to do that. That already, it is a Cold War 3, which it had started already.
Russia has already turned the Ukrainian conflict into a global one. It has mobilized North Korean soldiers and Iranian equipment on our continent, while helping these countries to further arm themselves.
Manipule les élections en Roumanie, en Moldavie. Elle organise des attaques numériques contre nos hôpitaux pour en bloquer le fonctionnement.
President Putin's Russia is violating our borders to assassinate opponents, manipulating elections in Romania and Moldavia. It organizes digital attacks on our hospitals to block their operations. Russia is trying to manipulate our opinions with lies spread on social networks. Deep down, it tests our limits, and does so in the air, at sea, in space, and behind our screens.
The presence of these foreigner troops of Iran and North Korea, it is something which is putting all these European countries uncomfortable. So it is for that reason now they don't even want to listen to Donald Trump anymore. And for the fact that they don't want to listen to Donald Trump anymore, which means they want to do things on their own way. Now, them choosing to do things on their own way, do you have an idea what will be the outcome? Because at the end of the day, they'll end up attacking Russia, and Russia will have to attack them. And by then, the USA are out that will stand with the Europeans anymore. They'll do everything in order for them to side up with Russia, because they know that if they have to stand up with the European countries, well, the world is going to even end up escalating from one nation to another nation, and the whole world is going to be in a very big mess. And that is the big fear which Donald Trump and the Europeans, they need to avoid right now. Now, what is my take in this, guys? Well, as I have said it before, that the war which is ongoing in Ukraine, it was not all about Ukraine versus Russia. It was not because of Ukraine or Russia being violating some deals, this and that. No. Why? Because if that was the case, then this war would have been there for so many years. So many years that Russia and Ukraine, they've been having this kind of conflict whereby Russia will come and say that no, we are going in to protect the minority who speak the Russians. On the other side, Zelensky or his predecessors, they will come also and give their own reasons. But this will never take place. Russia never invaded Ukraine before. But why did they get to that point? Well, they get to that point because of the simple reason. The simple reason is that the USA got influenced by Europeans who wanted to challenge the leadership of the Republic of Russia by them coming to the NATO and telling the USA that it is going to be a good idea for us to go ahead and take Ukraine and place our NATO military troops over there, or should I say NATO military base. And that was something which they knew very well that it's going to cost them a lot, because Russia is not going to allow that to happen.
This is not even baby geopolitics. This is just not thinking at all. So the war started. What was Putin's intention in the war? I can tell you what his intention was. It was to force Zelensky to negotiate neutrality. And that happened within 7 days of the start of the invasion. You should understand this, not the propaganda that's written about this. Oh, that they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, understand something basic. The idea was to keep NATO, and what is NATO? It's the United States, off of Russia's border. No more, no less. I should add one very important point. Why are they so interested? First, because if China or Russia decided to have a military base on the Rio Grande or in the Canadian border, not only would the United States freak out, we'd have war within about 10 minutes, but because the United States unilaterally abandoned the anti-ballistic missile treaty in 2002 and ended the nuclear arms control framework by doing so. And this is extremely important to understand. The nuclear arms control framework is based on trying to block a first strike. The ABM treaty was a critical component of that. The U.S. unilaterally walked out of the ABM treaty in 2002. It blew a Russian gasket. So everything I've been describing is in the context of the destruction of the nuclear framework as well. And starting in 2010, the U.S. put in Aegis missile systems in Poland and then in Romania. And Russia doesn't like that. And one of the issues on the table in December and January, December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine? And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants.
I don't know whether they were expecting Russia to just sit and ignore everything like the way they were planning it. I don't know. But the truth is that it was all Europeans and the USA trying to fight Russia. They wanted to try the muscle of Russia and see how strong Russia can resist against all these countries. But now that they failed, now that they have realized that we are not dealing with a small boy, well, before they end up being humiliated in front of the entire world, Donald Trump is rather choose to stop this war, and he even told Zelensky that you are not in the good position to refuse to negotiate with Vladimir Putin.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is, Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
Do you know why Donald Trump was saying that? All because he knows very well that no, Russia is winning so far and Ukraine is losing. And they have just realized that they can't continue supporting a loser. That is the simple message which Donald Trump was trying to pass there by Zelensky, by telling him that no, you are a loser. He's a vice president of the United States of America. He even attacked Zelensky by reminding him that no, you don't even have enough men to go and fight in the front line.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? Did you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
Things did not get at this point for no reason. Things get at this point because obviously Donald Trump has also people who are supporting the president of Ukraine by telling him that no, as you are going to the United States of America, once you are talking to Donald Trump, don't let him fool you. You got our support. Don't listen to his proposal of a peace deal. And these people, they are from the Democrats who've been fighting Donald Trump for some time now. And that is how the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, end up having that courage to challenge Donald Trump in his word as well. Normally, this man has nothing to say to Donald Trump because obviously it is Donald Trump, the America, who've been supporting him to become even that stronger against Russia for all these years. So him trying to challenge Donald Trump or refusing to sign this peace deal, it is what also end up making Donald Trump regretting or feeling disappointed in him because he kind of like this person is ungrateful. Instead of him acknowledging that no, we are babying him here, we are protecting him against Russia, but he seems now to be having the courage to talk also back to us when we are talking. So at this point, anything it is possible. And I'll be loud and clear in my message. If they don't manage this situation properly, we are going to have another World War III. Yes, whether it is the USA have with the Europeans, they have to negotiate their relationship by having one common things and see on how they can stop this, or whether the Europeans, they are going to entertain Zelensky with the Ukrainians and put them at the risk of making the whole entire country perish from Russia attack, or whether they are going to be a one bloc against Russia and allow Russia also to deal with them with its allies. That is the naked truth, and we should not deny that. All right? So guys, thank you. It was very important that we have this conversation. We are looking forward to your comment in the comment section. Tell us also what is in your mind. Tell us what do you think about all this drama that we are getting to see from the Europeans and the United States of America and Russia and the Ukraine at the same time. What do you think it will be the outcome from all this? In the meantime, we are looking forward to see also your thumbs up, like this video and your numbers. I think that will be all for now. Continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. Ciao, ciao.